What was y'all's initial reaction to that information? Because up to then, everything had been textbook. There were no issues, no problems. And then all of a sudden, they dropped this in your lap. Mom, what are you feeling? Dad, what are you feeling?
Well, a light switch kind of flipped there. I mean, because it's like 1 minute, like you said, everything's the way you think it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
And the next second, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
It was hard for me. It was really hard for me. I grieved a lot for a while. Kind of got depressed because I was scared. I was actually scared of her.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. Your host is Steve Dover, a special needs advocate and father of 2 special needs sons. This is a faith-based, in-depth conversation-styled podcast with and for parents of special needs children. This podcast will let you have a front row seat to hear how they do it, why they do it, and what you can learn from their experiences as they share their exceptional stories. Let's get started.
Thank you for listening to Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. We hope you've been enjoying the inspiring tales and remarkable individuals we've had the privilege to feature on our show. Your support means the world to us, and here's a simple way you can help us continue to bring you these exceptional stories. If you found value in this episode, please leave us a 5-star rating and a review on your favorite podcast platform. Be sure to include the episode number or guest name in your review. These ratings and reviews boost our visibility and allow more people to discover the incredible stories we share. Plus, it lets us know that you're enjoying the content and find it valuable. So, take a moment right now to leave that 5-star rating wherever you listen to our show. Your feedback fuels our passion to keep bringing you these exceptional stories. Thank you for being a part of our podcast community. Stay tuned for more heartwarming and extraordinary stories in the weeks to come.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another heartwarming episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. I'm your host, Steve Dover, and today I have the privilege of introducing 2 extraordinary guests, Kenneth and Jamie Larson. They hail from my home state of Alabama. Their story is a testament to the strength of family, love, and determination as they share their journey of raising their vibrant and inspiring daughter, Kendle. Kendle was born with Down syndrome, but her diagnosis was a revelation that forever changed the Larsons' family life. At the moment of her birth, the nurses noticed certain Down syndrome markers and delivered the news to Kenneth, which stopped both parents in their tracks. The news left them grappling with fear, shattered life plans, anger, and moments of depression. Kendle's journey also took an unexpected turn when doctors found 3 holes in her heart, including an arterial septal defect, ventricular septal defect, and a patent ductus arteriosus. Yet in the face of these challenges, Kendle's heart healed, and today she is a spirited 18-year-old senior in high school, full of life and energy. As Kendle's education path unfolded, the Larson family investigated the transition from inclusion to one-on-one support with invaluable insights gained from a transformative visit to Vanderbilt University. Kenneth and Jamie are here to share their experiences and offer advice to parents who may be going through similar journeys, particularly when it comes to individualized education plans. Their aim is to empower families to not be intimidated by this process. But perhaps most inspiring is their family motto, which encapsulates their unwavering commitment to Kendle. That motto is this: society may limit Kendle, other people may limit Kendle, but we don't want to. This motto serves as a guiding light, pushing them to defy limitations and expectations, ensuring that Kendle's potential knows no bounds. Stay tuned to hear the Larson family's incredible story, including a lesson taught to them by Kendle's older brother. Their journey is a testament to the power of love and determination, and it's sure to touch your hearts and inspire you to embrace life's changes with open arms. Don't miss this special episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them.
All right, welcome to another episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. I have some very special friends with me today I want you to meet. Kenneth and Jamie Larson. Glad to have you guys on the show. Welcome in.
Thanks for having us,
Thank
Steve.
you. Good to be here.
Oh, it's good to see you. We were adding up before we hit record. It has probably been about 10 or 12 years since we've actually been in the same place together. But y'all have a very, very special, unique story that I want us to touch on today. And that is about your daughter, Kendle. And so take us through the first, how things started, how things come about, and where her diagnosis fit into that timeline. And I'll just let both of you talk, or however y'all want to handle that. But introduce us to Kendle so that we know something about her.
Okay. Kendle is now 18 years old, which is unbelievable in itself, because it seems like she was born, 2 days ago. But she has had us on our toes running ever since she came into this world, for sure. We did not know that she had Down syndrome until she was born.
Okay.
She was born when I was 39, and my doctors did not find any markers. We did 3D and 4D sonograms, nothing. I did blood work, nothing came back, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
After she was born, my doctor actually went back and pulled those things back up, the sonograms, just to take a second look to see if he missed something.
Mm-hmm.
And he did. So it just wasn't meant for us to know that until we were supposed to know that.
Okay.
Yeah, we actually found out when Kendle went to the nursery and she was having a little bit of trouble keeping her oxygen level up. And I'd gone to check on her. And the pediatrician on call, after she was updating me about the oxygen situation, I was walking back out of the room and she said, "Mr. Larson." I said, "Yes." She said, "I need to tell you that your daughter has some of the markers that are typically identified with Down syndrome." So that was kind of our first clue.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after that, we spent some time in the hospital with her in the neonatal ICU. And there they did blood work and confirmed that she did indeed have Down syndrome.
What were some of the markers they were seeing? What was?
It was the shape of the eyes, a little fold on the top of her ears.
Mm-hmm.
There's a gap between the big toe and the first toe. And then there's a line that runs through the center of the hand where our lifeline and all that runs. They've got a certain pattern to that line. Mm-hmm. And that was something that jumped out on them as well. Muscle tone was a little low.
Okay. What was y'all's initial reaction to that information? Because up to then, everything had been textbook. There were no issues, no problems. And then all of a sudden, they dropped this in your lap. Mom, what are you feeling? Dad, what are you feeling?
Well, a light switch kind of flipped there. I mean, because it's like 1 minute, like you said, everything's the way you think it's supposed to be. Yeah. And the next second, it's not. Mm-hmm. It was hard for me. It was really hard for me. I grieved a lot for a while. Kind of got depressed because I was scared. I was actually scared of her. I do think. I mean, I was afraid I was going to hurt her. I didn't know how to I thought I didn't know how to take care of a baby with Down syndrome, but a friend told me, "She's a baby. She needs you to love her just like any other baby." And that was the best advice that I got from the beginning. And it was true. So
from my side, once the pediatrician on call told me that, I thought, well, she was pretty young. Mm-hmm. And I thought, she's lost her mind. Kendle did not look like she had Down syndrome. And so I thought the doctor was wrong. We wound up being med-flighted to Huntsville to the neonatal ICU because of Kendle's issue with her oxygen. She had some holes in her heart that cleared on her own. And I stayed in Huntsville with her the whole time. My wife, Jamie, came back home to kind of rest and recover some at night, and she would come back over there each day. So at night, the neonatal ICU nurses would let me go in and basically stay with Kendle all night unless they were doing an admission or a baby coded. Right. So I spent a lot of time with her, and I bonded with her pretty closely. And I think as a result of that, she's been a daddy's girl ever since. We were pretty tight. Right. Literally there'd be times during that time in the ICU that I would hold her all night long and feed her and change her and do all that stuff.
Sure.
So Jamie would come back over during the day. I'd go to a motel room and sleep, and then we'd swap out, and I'd be back over there at night. But once that confirmation came from the blood work that she had Down syndrome, it was like, wow, all the things I had planned for my child, my daughter, have now changed. Yeah. And friends told us about a book called Welcome to Holland, and it describes the experience perfectly of having a child with Down syndrome.
Absolutely.
And the theme of the book, and I'll keep it short, is your family is planning a vacation to Egypt, and they're going to go see the pyramids and all the great things in Egypt. And you get on a plane with all your clothes and all your gear and all your guidebooks to go to Egypt. And when you land, you're not in Egypt, you're in Holland. So you've got this initial shock of, I'm not where I thought I would be. But if you spend your rest of your life lamenting the fact that you didn't get to go to Egypt, you'll miss the joys and the pleasures and the beauties of Holland. So you just have to kind of reorient yourself. You're going to have a new group of friends. You're going to have different challenges in your life than the people that went to Egypt, but it's still beautiful in Holland. You just have to embrace it and love it.
Yeah, you get to see the windmills and the tulips and all of the beauties of that land that you weren't expecting to go to. Yeah, I had a friend point that out to me a while back, and I researched that a little bit, and what a way to sum up the life of a special needs parent. You're going in one direction, and you've got all these plans and dreams, and then within a matter of seconds, that trip has changed, and you'll never get back on that other path. But and I think a lot of parents maybe let it detract from the path that they're on. They stay in that grief phase or in that why me phase and miss so much. These kids are amazing.
They are.
And I definitely went through some of those my we phases, and they come and go. It ebbs and flows.
Yeah, they do.
And my wife and I have been very blessed in that most of the time when one of us is going through one of those periods in our life where we're frustrated with the fact that we don't have the typical family, we don't have the typical child. The other one's typically at a high point where things are good for them, mentally and emotionally. So we pick each other up, and it kind of balances out most of the time. It does. We've been blessed with that because I know a lot of families that have a child with Down syndrome wind up being a broken family. A lot of times it leads to divorce. And so thank goodness for our faith in God and our faith in each other and our love for each other. And we always get to a good place when it's said and done.
Sure, absolutely. You mentioned in the early days there was a hole in her heart. You said that corrected itself. What were some of the other initial challenges that you guys faced as new parents with traveling this Down syndrome path?
I would say actually there were 3 holes in her heart: ASD, VSD, and a PDA. And the cardiologist that looked at her shortly after she arrived in the neonatal ICU came out and told me, I was there, these are going to heal on their own. She's going to be fine. So no open heart surgery, common with a lot of kids with Down syndrome or infants with Down syndrome. No stomach issues, gastrointestinal issues. That was a blessing. The challenges from there just became, low muscle tones, difficulty breastfeeding, slower to walk, slower to talk, lots of therapies, OT, PT, speech therapy. And sometimes we look back and think we spent way too much on speech therapy because sometimes she won't shut up now. She just keeps
One of my favorite lines from the Andy Griffith Show is, you spend the first 2 years of their life teaching them to walk and talk, and then the rest of their life telling them to sit down and be quiet.
Yes.
That's true in her case for sure.
And she has no filter, so whatever she thinks, she says.
Exactly.
Well, I had the extra benefit. The people that are listening to the podcast won't benefit from this, but I had the extra benefit of when we logged on, I got to see her and say hey to her. And so you folks that are listening, I'm sorry you missed out on that, but I got to see my girl, and she's looking good and doing good for sure. Centering on Down syndrome now, what do you think is the biggest misconception about children that are diagnosed with this? What do you think the general public that probably found out about it 5 minutes ago, or they have these preconceived ideas, what do you think is the biggest misconception?
I'd like to give you 2.
Sure.
The first one is that they can't do much because there's a lot of things Kendle can do. She can do a lot of things that other typical, normal, whatever you want to call it, kids can do, young adults now. It might take her a little bit longer to learn it, but she can pick it up and do it, especially if she decides she wants to. She's very strong-willed.
Yeah.
The second thing I would say is that a lot of times you hear people say, children, young adults with Down syndrome are always happy. Big fat lie.
They don't have one at home, do they?
No,
They don't.
she is a sassafras if there ever was.
Sassy and full of herself. Absolutely.
Are there certain things that bring that about? Is it?
She doesn't get her way.
Okay, let's just throw it out there. That's fine.
Well, she's so if you look at Jamie and I in our marriage, Jamie's an extrovert and she loves people. She gets energy from being around people. I'm very much an introvert, and I if I'm around people very long, I need to go to a quiet spot where it's pretty much just me to recharge.
I got you.
And Kendall's got a whole lot more of that introvert in her than what her mother would like for her to have. So she's perfectly happy by herself in her own world. And at times, especially when she's in one of her moods, she doesn't really like to engage with people. Tonight was one example of that, when she met you for a little while and then she went right back out to her quiet spot outside.
It was time to go. That's fine.
It's like, I did what you asked. Now I'm out of here.
Yeah. Leave now. I understand completely. Trying to figure out how I want to ask this. How has raising a special needs child impacted your family dynamic and your daily routine?
Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Hey, Exceptional Stories family. We've got something very exciting to share. We want to put the spotlight on you. If you're a special needs parent or caregiver, we want to hear your questions for an upcoming Q&A episode. Send in your questions via email to exceptionalstoriespodcast@gmail.com or leave us a 90-second voice message at speakpipe.com/exceptionalstoriespodcast. We're diving deep into the most common pain points faced by special needs parents, and your input will shape this crucial conversation. I can't wait to hear from you. Let's make this Q&A episode truly exceptional.
Well, I was a teacher. I had went back to school and got my master's degree, and I taught 8 years. And then she was born in April, so I was going to take the rest of that year off and maybe part of the next year, but really hadn't decided yet. But after she was born, I ended up not going back. So Kenneth got to pay for my master's degree for me. But honestly, I've used it a lot, I think. Just, being her mom and trying to help her do all the things. But what else do you think?
Well, I would say that the biggest impact has been on my wife, Jamie, because she did have to give up that job
that I loved.
She loved and that she was great at. Now, I also take the position that the good Lord was preparing her to help raise and teach Kendle with all of her educational background, her elementary education, her master's, all that went to focus on Kendle. But where it really made it a struggle for Jamie and difficult for Jamie is that she needed that social interaction and that engagement with other people. And now she's at home while I'm at work, and she's here every day with Kendle, and not getting the adult social interaction that she needed. So that dynamic definitely changed, and it's been tough. And there's times I have to say, you go be with your high school friends, your church friends, whatever, and get some of that time. It's not as much as she needs. Yeah. But it does get her some of it. So that's probably the biggest thing. And it's just it kind of changes your outlook on what your plans are for long term. I had kind of penciled a date way out in the future and said about in this time frame, I'll be retiring. And now that's kind of changed. I want to make sure Kendle is financially taken care of for her lifespan, even if we pass and go before her. And instead of it being, okay, let's get where we can live comfortably and hopefully have a little bit left over for the kids when we're done, to where, wow, how long is she going to live and how much will it cost in that point in time to take care of her, for someone to take care of her and her not wind up in, government housing or whatever and being somewhat neglected. So it's just kind of changed the whole long-term future outlook. In the present term, it's changed how Jamie gets her to be an extrovert and have social interaction with other adults.
That's good. That's good. You mentioned siblings. How many other children do you have?
One. She has a brother that's 35.
Okay.
He was 16 when she was born. So
how did he react? How was his?
He was not a fan at first. He was not a fan, but he was 16.
there's a lot going on for a 16-year-old guy.
Yes.
Yeah,
He thought it was kind of embarrassing that his mom was having a baby.
Yeah, 16-year-old.
Yeah.
16-year-old only child for his whole life, and now there's another one that's getting a lot of attention that he probably used to get. So it was pretty tough on him. But I'll say this: she loves him and he loves her.
Absolutely.
No doubt about it.
Great. And that's what I'm finding a lot of the times. I know that was the case with ours. We're a blended family. I had two sons from a prior marriage. Metha had two children from prior marriage. And we blended those families. And though we didn't always get along with the kids always got along with the special needs aspect that we were tackling. And I think we raised some of the biggest defenders of special needs kids because they were exposed to that.
Oh yes,
definitely. Yeah, I've heard Andy say many times, I don't know why you're telling her she can't do that. She can do it. Just let her do it.
Yeah.
Or he'll say, "Stop helping her. Stop saying that for her. I know what she's saying. Let her talk."
Yeah, basically, he's encouraged us many times not to limit her. And I mean, this is probably a good time to throw this in there. That's been one of our mottos all along: is that society may limit her, other people may limit her, but we don't want to. And yet at times we found ourselves doing just that. But, when she wanted to play T-ball, great, you're going to play T-ball. She wants to go to do cheer, great, go be a cheerleader. She wants to do gymnastics, dance, go do that. So she's done all those things. And some of those things she's still doing. I mean, she's still taking dance and dances in a competitive dance class. So, our goal is always to say at first it's hard for us, but if you want to try it, go do it. If you can do it, great. And let's not hold her back, which at times I've been guilty of it.
Yeah.
And
go
ahead. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
This coming weekend, she has asked to be in the high school, the one she attends, the Calendar Girl pageant. And as far as I know, she is the only special needs person that will be in this pageant.
And maybe the only one that's ever done it.
And possibly the only one that's ever done it. But she asked to be in it, and there was absolutely positively no way that we were going to say no.
Well, I've seen some pictures of her. I don't want to say pageant, but
modeling. She likes
modeling. Yes.
She also does a little bit of modeling.
Those are amazing pictures.
Yes.
They are amazing.
Loves it. And she becomes a different person on stage. Totally different.
Totally different personality.
She becomes me on stage.
She loves the stage. She loves the attention. and the modeling story is a good one that we haven't touched upon, right? Jamie keeps getting a call from some number in Florida.
Yes.
That over and over comes, and she keeps ignoring it. It's not in her contacts. Finally, after enough calls, she finally answers it one time, and the guy says, "Can I speak to Kendle Larson?" And Jamie says, "Well, this is her mother. What can I do for you?" And he said, "Well, she signed up to come to our modeling class." And Jamie's like, "She did what?" So, they were holding modeling classes. She enrolled. Once he found out she had Down syndrome, he's like, "Yeah, we can still probably do that," but it just didn't seem like a good fit in the group environment they were going to do without any support from us. They wouldn't let us be there. Yeah. So Jamie found a lady in Huntsville that would, I'd love to give her modeling lessons. And Kendle loves it. I mean, she absolutely loves it, loves being on the stage and doing modeling, and especially fashion shows and stuff.
Awesome. That is awesome. Well, this would be a good spot for us to take a break. When we come back, you mentioned school. I want to touch that a little bit and let the folks know how she does school, how that works. And then we will wrap up with some current event things that are going on with her. So sit tight. We'll be back here in just a minute with exceptional stories and the people who live them.
We hope you are enjoying this week's episode of Exceptional Stories and the People Who Live Them. If you would like to support our podcast to help it improve and be heard around the world, we have created a way you can do just that. Go to the podcast website at exceptionalstoriespodcast.com and click the support button on the homepage. For as little as $3 per month, you can help keep this podcast available. There will be no pressure, and you can stop anytime you choose. So go to the show website now, exceptionalstoriespodcast.com, and click the support button now to help. We look forward to hearing from you soon.
All right, we're back with my guest, Kenneth and Jamie Larson. They are the parents to Kendle Larson, who is an 18-year-old firecracker. We have just found out.
Very good at, yeah.
She's about 60-40 from her parents, mom and dad, and getting their personality traits and all that. But right before we went to the break, we were talking about her being in a school competition. And tell us about how school works for Kendle. What is the magic with that?
Well, I had said earlier that I was a teacher, and I had moved to this school system. We live in Fort Payne, so I'd moved to the Fort Payne City school system and gotten to know everyone. So when she was born, all the teachers knew who she was. And so that's where she started to school. And I just feel like we've been very blessed for that reason. People just took care of her, took her under their wing, and whatever we've asked for, honestly, they've done it. They've been over backwards to make it happen. She has a one-on-one aid. She has since day one. Of course, that might have had a little bit to do that she would run away and nobody could find her. But yeah.
The school thing was kind of interesting because the school she started in, the elementary schools where Jamie had taught, knew everybody up there. Everybody, of course, loved Jamie. And therefore they loved Kendle. But Kendle also did Mother's Day Out, a bit of a preschool before she went. She did that for several years. So when she's hitting kindergarten, she's reading 100 sight words. So this is a kid with Down syndrome reading 100 sight words and knowing her ABCs. And there were a lot of normal, quote, typical kids that couldn't do that. So early on, she did really good. And then as she progressed through school, the older she got, the performance, her ability to perform and do what the other kids was doing, the typical kids, the gap kept getting bigger and bigger. And when she was in the regular classroom, she wouldn't participate. And we're firmly convinced that she's smart enough to realize that she couldn't do what they were doing, at least not as quickly as they were doing it. Mm-hmm. So she would just withdraw. And some of that's probably some of those introverted traits that I have myself.
Right.
So it's probably a combination of things, a little bit of introversion, a little bit of, I'm not going to put myself out there if I can't do what everybody else in the class can do in the time that they can do it. So she went from being included in a regular classroom at our request, and the school system fully supported that, to us actually making the request, why don't we stop the inclusion and just kind of more time in the special needs or resource room, because she's withdrawing some.
Yeah.
And then in the resource room, at times we felt like she was bored.
She was bored, and she was imitating behaviors that we didn't want her to have, but you had to weigh the options.
So there was a good part of her time in school, and she's in her senior year now, but we felt like she was kind of stuck almost in no man's land. Could perform above the majority of the kids in the resource room, but couldn't keep up with the kids in the typical classroom. So it was it's been tough through the end of her middle school years and even high school years. Yeah. But she's having a good year this year, and she's engaged in a lot of things at the school, such as she helps out with the Cat's Cafe, which is their coffee shop at the school they do on Fridays. Yeah. And loves that, absolutely loves it. So I'd say right now she's having a really good year.
She is.
But it's been up and down, some good years, some bad years.
Well, it's good to hear you've got the support from the school system too. A lot of parents have to. That's a struggle. That's a pain point for them. But I'm proud to say that in the area that we're in, we live about 10 miles from you guys. The area that we're in, they do not necessarily see the diagnosis. They see the kid, and they do what the kid needs. As long as they can do inclusion, that's what we'll do is inclusion.
Right.
Yeah.
But like you said, she started hitting roadblocks. She started falling behind, and I think sounds like she knew that.
She did.
And,
yes.
But they fully supported your decision, and that.
And it was hard because I had spent since the day she was born saying, "Oh, we're going to have her included. She's going to get to do everything she wants to do."
Yeah.
And she's the one that's like, "I'm done."
She showed you, didn't she?
Yeah, she showed me. She shows me a lot of things.
There you go.
But I would say this to other parents of special needs kids: make sure that you understand what your rights are. I mean, we were fortunate in that we never had to say, okay, we understand our rights and you're not doing what we want you to do. So, we'll have to get a lawyer or something. That we never got to that because our school system was fortunate. We were fortunate that our school system understood and looked at the kid and the kid's needs, the child's needs, and not just a diagnosis. But if a parent were to run into that, you've got some legal action you could take. Sure. Based on No Child Left Behind Act Part C.
Yeah, and those IEP meetings are so crucial.
They are.
That is.
Don't miss those. Do not miss those.
And don't be afraid to speak up. Don't be afraid to challenge an idea because it may not be in the child's best interest. Don't be afraid to speak up. Be an advocate.
And a little bit of advice that I would mention to any parent that's going to an IEP meeting is ask for a copy of that IEP, the rough draft, before the meeting, like a couple of days before the meeting. So you can look over it. You can, add things you want added, and let them know when you get there that we're not happy with this or we love this or whatever it may be.
Educate yourself. You never stop learning. Never stop learning. Because they may not have ill intentions for what they have planned and what they think, but it could have drastic effects.
Well, I've heard from teachers a few times, well, this is the way we do it. This is what we do. Well, this is a different kid. And because it worked with that one doesn't mean it's going to work with this one. No. So, we got to figure this out as we go.
And I'll share a little bit more. We had some issues in Kendle which were basically behavioral issues where she was acting out. Yeah. And the teachers were doing what they thought was in, the right thing to do to react and respond to those behavioral issues. And we finally, after kind of being at our wits' end and struggling with it, we went and saw a behavioral specialist up at Vanderbilt Hospital. And he really educated us in short order that we were, as parents, making some mistakes in the way that we were trying to instruct and guide Kendle. And he gave us some real life examples and showed us with her in the room that he understood better how the Down syndrome mind works than we did as parents. Yeah. And we took that information back to our next IEP and shared it with them when they said, the special needs coordinator for the system said, we need to stop this IEP right now and take what you're telling us and go develop a new IEP and come back and start over. So that their willingness to learn, but our willingness to learn as well. And don't be afraid to reach out to a specialist because it's kind of strange. The Down syndrome phenotype, the way the brain functions, is very similar to autistic. And he was able to show us a few things in, I don't know, a couple of hours in a room with Kendle up at Vanderbilt Hospital that just blew my mind and helped explain why she was behaving in some instances the way she was and how our behavior was actually pushing her to that response, the wrong response, and how we should tailor our behavior, make it different to solicit and get the response we wanted. So we learned a lot, but I encourage you to seek out specialists, especially at great places like Vanderbilt, where they have some phenomenal people.
Down syndrome clinics,
even National Down Syndrome Society, their annual gatherings, National Down Syndrome Convention. Those are great places to get resources and learn about how to raise your child given the way that their brain works.
Yeah. And every child is different.
Everyone.
Every autistic child is different. What works with one will not or may not work with the other, and the same with all diagnoses. Those kids are individual beings. They have individual things that stress them, that please them, that stimulate them, and it's all totally different. And that's great information to educate yourself as a parent before you start tackling these things, so that you know what you have, you know what you're talking about, you know your rights. And you don't go in there as a bully, but you go in there as part of that team to make the atmosphere as ideal as possible for you. Yeah, absolutely. In the few minutes that we've got left, I want you to tell the folks what Kendle's involved with now, what's going on in her life. Now, I met you guys. I said earlier it was about 10 or 12 years ago. You guys were hosting an event. Was it Kendle and Friends or Kendle's Friends?
Kendle's friends.
Kendle's friends. We came up, and my wife and I did some music and kind of shared our story there at the park that day. And that was my initial introduction to you guys. But tell us what's going on with Kendle now, what she's involved in, and how folks can find out more about it.
Well, the Kendle's Friends group is part of our church. It's Rainsville First Baptist. Mm-hmm. That's where it all started. It was something that our youth pastor came up with to just help parents to get a break.
Yeah, it's really about ministering to the parents. So in a Kendle's Friends event, what we typically do is our youth, each one of them take a kid, and they take that kid for the couple hours, 3 or 4 hours that we're there. Everybody gets fed, parents and children. The kids typically go into our gymnasium and play games. The parents get a chance to do a couple of things. They can, watch a movie that's a good holistic movie, not something that is inappropriate. Watch a movie, or they can. Most of the time, what the parents wind up doing is sitting in our fellowship hall or our youth room and just visiting and socializing with each other. Just a chance to talk with other parents, share common problems that their children are facing, common experiences, common solutions, and just relax. So the parent doesn't have to be focused on that child intently. And it came about from Jamie going to a respite meeting down in Gadsden, and a lady had driven there from about an hour and a half away. Wow. And once her child got in and got in a respite meeting, the lady went out in her car and slept. And she said, I haven't had good sleep in so long, and to know someone's taking care of my child for an hour and a half and letting me relax and rest is such a blessing. So that's how this other event at our church got started. And from that, we spun into a few other things. Like we've done upward basketball at the church for years. And now we have a special needs upward team. It's obviously not limited to kids with Down syndrome. We get all kinds of kids that have special needs.
The dream team.
Call it the dream team. And they play upward basketball. We also do upward soccer. So we're in the middle of that right now. So we've got a special needs soccer team that plays upward soccer on our soccer field behind the church. So that's kind of what's going on through the church. We mentioned she's about to be in the Miss Black and Gold pageant at Fort Payne High School this Saturday.
Awesome.
She's taking dance classes down in Sardis, Boaz, Alabama. And in those, she's got a special needs class that she's a part of. But she also participates on the competition dance team, and she's the only special needs person that's on that competition team. Others could do it if they wanted to, but no one else has signed up. So right now it's just Kendle. She's taking a break from modeling right now, but we talked a bit about modeling earlier in the podcast. She loves to model, loves to be on the stage, fashion shows, and usually she winds up doing fashion shows over at the Huntsville, the mall in Huntsville.
Okay. Parkway City Mall.
Parkway City Mall. And then I guess the other thing I would add is she helps as a helper on the special needs ice cream truck, a little something extra ice cream that is operated. The CEO of that is Hunter Norwood, who has Down syndrome as well. His family got him an ice cream truck for that to be something that he would be doing long-term. His long-term career actually is to be the CEO of that ice cream truck business. And she is a certified ice cream expert and helps on the ice cream truck as well. Goes through training.
I knew I liked her for a reason. It had to be the ice cream, right?
Yeah, we just about a month ago, we made a trip up to Liberty University with the Norwoods so they could speak up there at convocation about what they're doing with the ice cream truck and how the good Lord led them to that. And while they were speaking, we were, myself and Jamie and Kendle were selling ice cream, and we sold, I don't know, probably 4,000 ice creams that day up at Liberty University.
Well, I have been speaking with Michelle off and on, and I actually have her scheduled for an interview coming up. So we're going to find out more about Hunter and, of course, the ice cream truck and all that stuff. So that is good. Well, I appreciate you. Is there a question you expected me to ask that I didn't
ask? What's next is maybe a scary thing because she's about to graduate in May. And,
transition time. Yep.
Yeah. And I know that it will be worked out just like it's supposed to be. Yeah. But that is really scaring me right now. So what's next?
All those transition times are scary.
Yes, they are. Every single one of them.
But you're 100%. Y'all made it through every one of them.
Yes, we have. So far.
So far. Well, Kenneth and Jamie, I appreciate you guys so much being on here. My hat's off to the job you've done and you're continuing to do. And I just love me some Kendle. She's a sweetheart. And one of these days, I'm going to be out and about when the truck's set up, and I'm going to go specifically buy ice cream from her.
Okay.
I won't buy it from anybody else, and you tell her I told you.
We'll try to have her in a good mood that day.
Maybe she will.
Ice cream will put me in a good mood. Maybe it'll help.
Well, true. And it usually does her too. She wants to work a few minutes and eat her ice cream.
Yeah.
That's my philosophy 100%. Well, thank y'all so much for being on here. I know your story.
Thank you for having us.
Folks. And I hope to see y'all face to face soon.
Okay. Look forward to it.
Hey, before we go, I want to thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode. If you're the parent of a special needs child and wish to share your story with us, or you know someone we should talk with on the show, send an email to exceptionalstoriespodcast@gmail.com. I also want to invite you to follow us on our social media pages. You can find us on both Facebook and Instagram at Exceptional Stories Podcast. And lastly, if you found this podcast informative and you would like to keep it going, I encourage you to go to our website at www.exceptionalstoriespodcast.com and click on the support button on our homepage. Join us next week as we share another exceptional story.